I always like to start with just finding out a little bit, about your story, if you don't mind sharing.
Jesse and I met back in 2018. We actually were doing yoga teacher training together and we became good friends. Then we got together a few years later. I moved out to LA to be with Jesse, and then we've been together since then. We got married in April, but we knew before we got married, when we were engaged, that we wanted to get this process going.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when we found Donor Concierge and kind of started it there. But yeah, we live out in LA. We got married in Malibu end of April. We had 2 fluffy daughters, we like to call them. So 2 little dogs. And yeah, we're both from the East Coast. I'm from New York, Jesse's from Boston, but I don't think we're going to be leaving the West Coast anytime soon or ever.
When did you decide that you wanted to have a family? And I understand you want to have a big family, right?
We would love to have a big family. That's the goal. I think I would say at this point, we definitely know that we want like a sibling for a child. So absolutely more than 1 child, but we've talked about having as many as 4 children, which is exciting. We decided very early on, we knew that we wanted to have a family. And those are conversations that we had like pretty early on into dating, I would say. I think being a same-sex couple, like it's such a process that, it's one of those things where I feel like it can come up even earlier in dating because it's like, okay, do we want to go through this process together or not?
Mm-hmm.
And for both of us, having a family was a very significant value for us. We knew we wanted to have a family. And really, then the decisions came down to, well, how are we going to make that family, right? Like, what are we going to do? How are we going to get our sperm? And where are we going to go from there? And I think for both of us, or at least for me, I'm always kind of the mindset of like, let's be proactive, not reactive. And I think that's really why we tried to start the process of finding a sperm donor and, creating this family that we wanted so badly as early as possible.
And how did you find Donor Concierge?
We had been looking at some sperm banks ourselves, just like out of curiosity. And we were kind of frustrated already just with the options that we saw and the fact that, some that looked great weren't available. Then you would be alerted and then have to buy immediately. We were really hoping that there was some other way. And I felt like we did a lot of research and we didn't see anything. We were like, there has to be a way to have an exclusive donor or like a group that can help you through this process. We were hoping like something like Donor Concierge existed. And when we realized it did, it was exactly what we were looking for.
Yeah.
Well, we're certainly glad that you found us.
Yes.
And so what was your experience with us?
It was phenomenal from the start. I think, one of the things that we always used to say when we would get those Friday like update emails was Donor Concierge is a company that just really is consistent with their word, right? Like anything that you all told us, like you're going to get an email by Friday at this time. Like we got an email on Friday that time. Like, it's such a stressful process.
Mm-hmm.
And so for us, like it really was this opportunity for the process to be way less stressful, kind of more fun and enjoyable. And that's, I think, what we really got out of Donor Concierge and working with Donor Concierge.
Yeah, I think from the beginning when we were connected with Cynthia, it felt way less daunting. It was more like a fun adventure and kind of talking through the process and then getting to see some of the applicants coming through and looking at all of the donor profiles. It felt like there was a clear plan and Cynthia talked us through like what all the stages would look like. So again, like Jesse said, it didn't feel like this big stressful process. It was like, okay, cool. We're in this part of the journey. We're going to get to see all the options, make informed decisions, and like Donor Concierge is going to help throughout the whole process.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it really went from being a very stressful, daunting, uncertain thing. And like, there was a lot of responsibility on us to feeling like we were very supported through it. And we got to make more of the fun decisions, I would say.
Yeah. And I also think that what I always felt and what we both always felt was this like care from Donor Concierge, like this compassion, this care, like knowing that, there's so many emotions that go into this process and not just seeing us as like a number, like, just someone that they're working with, but like, Cynthia and the team really getting to know who Maddie and I were and really wanting to understand what we're looking for and really, trying to get that for us and ultimately doing that. We have nothing but amazing things to say, really.
Yeah.
Well, of course we love hearing that, but it also is something that it's just sort of fundamental to, what we do, just because it is something that, well, one, because like we have no vested interest choose and exactly who you choose, or, it's more, we're trying to help you to find what you're hoping for. And,
Yeah.
and that's where like, we really do need to kind of get to know you a bit and get a sense of, because then we can kind of go, oh, I think they'll really like this candidate, or like, no way,
Mhm.
that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it's not widgets,
Absolutely. Certainly could tell that too, because I think even when candidates were coming in, Cynthia or someone else on the team would email us and say, and kind of give a synopsis and say, this looks like a great candidate. Here are some flags for you, right? Here are some things I think you'll like. Here are some things that you might be questionable about. And that was really helpful too, because, A, we knew, oh, wow, they're actually paying attention and they really care. And B, it allowed for us to look through the profile in a way where we were looking out for those things.
And so why did you choose the donor that you did choose?
We love him. We don't know him, but we love him. We got to the point where we got to see some videos of them answering questions we wanted to. And we really, really liked multiple. And there was a point where we were like, how are we going to pick? All of these guys are so great. Like they would be great for so many different reasons.
Yes.
Like there was a time where I think we had 3 where we were like,
Four.
I don't know how we're going to pick. And then our donor came through. And so he's a model, and his first photo was very, like, it looked like a model, like a serious model photo. And we were like, oh my gosh, he's gorgeous. But like, is he going to think he's too cool for school? Like,
yeah, we kind of were like, this isn't going to be it, but we'll look at the profile,
yeah. And then the level of detail in the profile and all the questions the Donor Concierge asks, it was really clear from the beginning that he was such a kind and caring person as well. So of course
thoughtful.
The physical aspects were important, but we agreed if there was a gorgeous person who didn't seem like a nice guy, we wouldn't go with that donor. So we were so pleasantly surprised when his profile and all of his answers really matched what we saw on the outside. We were like, wow, is he
so thoughtful?
He's too good to be true. And he had some personal experience with members of the LGBTQ plus community, within his family. And it was really heartwarming to hear that he was interested in specifically helping us because he resonated with our story as well. And we got some more of that information when we had him do a video and answer some of those
that's
questions.
what I was gonna say. Like
the video kind of made it for us.
I think the video was a really big, it was just a no-brainer after the video. I think we were even a little hesitant before the video. We were down to 2 people.
Mm-hmm.
We were like, the video will tell us. It's funny because the question, we asked 3 questions for the video, which I think the video component is so phenomenal and needed.
And the fact that we can decide what we want them to say.
Exactly. So
or want to talk about.
We asked 3 questions. One of the questions that I asked was, what would be your perfect day? What I was thinking going into it was I was really looking for someone to like break down their perfect day and not just say, oh, my perfect day would be spending time with family and friends. Our sperm donor just like really broke down his perfect day to the point where like he was telling us what he was going to eat. And for me, I was like, okay, that's it. And I think like when we were talking to the therapist initially, like the third-party therapist, she had said something that really stuck with me, which was, yes, it's a sperm donor. Like, yes, they don't have parental rights. Like you are the parents, of course. And when your kids are asking questions about this sperm donor, you want to be proud that you picked this sperm donor. And that really stuck with me. And that's really what I was thinking about the entire process. And I think when we talk about our sperm donor to our future kids, like, I think we're both extremely proud that we picked him and that he has really amazing characteristics, thoughtfulness, compassion, just this insight and understanding of the world that, would be amazing, to pass on, to anyone. So yes, he has a phenomenal jawline and he just has a lot of, internal characteristics that are extremely important to us.
And that's something that I often share with people when they're looking. Is that you want to feel like because when your children ask you, why did you choose this person? You want to be able to say, because I really like them,
Yes.
And that's something, because it's like any child can understand that, it's like when they're little, they're not going to be like, oh, and they went to a great school.
Yeah, exactly. And that I think for both of us, we very confidently could say that.
Yeah. And I think just the level of information we got about him and the video and just how in depth the profile was with all of the photos and all of the questions, I feel like we are so confident in saying that we like him and we really think he's a great person versus if we had gone to sperm banks, just the amount of information given, it would be like, his picture seemed okay and he didn't have health
Yeah.
issues. And it would be harder, I think, to explain that and like be super proud of our selection when we are talking to our children. So it makes us just feel really good about the decision we made because it was such an informed decision.
So what would you say the most joyful part of this process was?
Say once we kind of made that decision and it was so unanimous between us after seeing his video, like,
Yes.
okay, we're going with him. That was really exciting because I think with the other ones that we really liked, we felt torn and there might have been a bit of us that was like compromising or feeling like, oh, do we make the right choice? And the fact that we felt so confident in our choice, I think was a big relief. And then of course there was some uncertainty, waiting for his genetic testing to come through and all of the legal work and then actually getting him out here and donating. Like we were kind of holding our breath till the very end because we didn't want to get our hopes up. But I would say the most joyful moment was when we realized like we felt really great about him and we wanted to go forward. And then of course getting the final confirmation that the sperm is frozen and we have it and we're good. Like that was just such a relief. Yeah. And it was so great. So I would say those are some highlights for me.
I think one other joyful thing for me was, so before he donated, we wrote him an email, a thank you letter, just thanking him for doing this for us, because obviously this is so significant to our lives. Like this is, he honestly had like a lot of power in the situation, right? Like we're, holding our breath and being like, please fly to LA, like do it, And so we, wrote his thank you note. And, we never had direct correspondence after that note with him, but Kayla sent us his response to the note. And I think his response was just such a joyful moment for me, where I can't remember verbatim what he said. He said something along the lines of like, wow, like that's so phenomenal that they wrote this. I'm so happy that I'm giving this to someone like Jesse and Maddie.
Yeah.
And it kind of just felt like this very like cohesive moment of, we're so thankful for you for doing this, and him being like, I'm doing this for the right people. And like, that just felt so great.
It's what's interesting about that to me, because I've always felt like it's good to have this sort of communication. And it all depends on what people are comfortable with, but historically, sort of medical community has been a little bit like, no, they should never talk. They should never, and it's like, my experience has been, and I've been in this for a very long time, is that it's usually a really positive thing, because, sort of if you are open-minded enough to be interested in doing this, you're not going to be, kind of thinking like, oh, I've got a baby out there, or, that's not really the mindset that people go into this with. It's more like, I feel so good that I've been able to help your dream come true. And, it's sort of, that's something that I think just makes a big difference in terms of your feeling going forward and his feeling for having helped. So.
Absolutely.
So what was the most unexpected thing?
I was shocked how many applicants our ad got.
Yeah. Oh my God. It was like in the thousands.
Yeah. And I think when Cynthia would send us the weekly email and say, here are the applicants we received, here's the number, we were like, oh my gosh, they keep coming. So that was kind of cool. And I just didn't realize the volume. I also didn't realize it was just the whole experience of having a personalized targeted ad for us was just a really cool thing. Like, I guess I didn't know how it would work, but the level of personalization and like catering to exactly what we wanted, not like a general ad. I think that was really great and unexpected in a good way. And then just the response from that.
I also think something unexpected was that the person that looks best on paper may not necessarily be the right sperm donor for us or for someone. I found myself through the process really like letting go of some of those things. We ended up getting many of the physical characteristics we were looking for. But if we really wanted like that person that hit every single box, we would have chose someone different. And, going into it, we were a little bit like, we have the opportunity to hit every box. Let's hit every box, And so to have all these applicants and then really be able to make an informed decision from the profile, from the video, from the Zoom call, it opens your mind a bit to not just be thinking about, okay, what on paper would look the best.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because, of course, because this is such a new area still, even though it's been going on for at least 30 some years, but it's still new. It's still, people don't necessarily, go like, oh, I can't wait to pick my donor. I mean, in your case, of course, being a same-sex couple, that's something that, you do. But it's just like when you're picking your partner, you may have in mind certain things that, but it's like, then you meet someone, you get to know them, and it's like, no, they are perfect. You know, you have this somewhat arbitrary list of what you think is going to be the most important thing, but you know, it's like, we're not little cogs in a wheel, in a machine, you know, so it's like, there are different things that make someone so much more appealing, or, you know, just feel like the right fit. So, you know, Jesse, the plan is that you are going to go through this first.
Yes.
Maddie, are you also going to at some point? Because
Yeah.
people, you know,
Yeah.
it's like, especially people in the LGBT community often kind of like, well, how'd they do it? You know, and everybody has different plans
Yes,
for them.
absolutely.
Yeah. So I think our plans, we both would love to carry. And Jessie is planning on going first just because she's a few years older than I am. So we just figured logically, my eggs are younger, we can wait a little bit. We're kind of toying with our options, you know, and we're working with our fertility doctor, and we'll probably ideally do IUI. And then if not, potentially move to IVF. We're lucky that we were able to get such a good amount of vials that we don't have that scarcity mindset and have to ration them out and, you know, maybe jump to IVF sooner than we may have to. So we have some flexibility with that, which is great. But yeah, we both intend to carry. And I think the verdict is out for if we would do some type of reciprocal IVF at some point, if we have to do that. And if we have embryos from both of us, like maybe we want to swap. We're leaving all the options on the table. Our fertility doctor is great at LARC. And when we first met with him, he was like, you have 2 uteruses. This is the best. There's so many possibilities for things we can do. So
Yeah,
we have an open mind for, you know, how it'll look, but we know we definitely would both like to carry, and we'll kind of see how that plays out.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you have advice for others that, you know, in the LGBTQ community that you would, you know, offer to hopeful parents?
One thing that we've learned is that there are just so many options and so many different paths you can go down, and there isn't one right path. And someone gave us the advice, actually a couple that we had connected with before we started this process, and they told us like, there isn't a perfect way to do this, but you just have to jump on a train and like you're staying on that train and commit to it. And that's something that we had weighed so many different options about: anonymous donor, known donor, even like adoption, a friend. Yeah, there isn't one way that's going to feel like the only option. So kind of trying one thing and just saying, this is how we're going to make our family.
Yeah. I also think too, like, you know, kind of protecting what you want to share, right? Like, I think sometimes, especially when you're in a same-sex relationship, I think, and perhaps this is with anyone, but I do think people almost feel like they're privy to this information, right? Like, we can't just naturally have a child. Of course we need sperm. And so people often will ask us, what are you going to do for a sperm donor, right? And, you know, being able to navigate those questions in a way that feel good to you and not oversharing just because you feel like other people need to know, because frankly, everyone has their opinion. And what we've noticed is that people are not afraid to share their opinion. Someone might say, why would you do that? Like, is that going to be complicated? Like, what about for your future child? And like, of course, you've already thought about that, right? And so you don't need someone to be pressing you with questions. So really being able to protect that for you and your partner, I think is, you know, or yourself, right? Like if you're doing this alone, which is phenomenal, just being able to know that like, that's yours to keep. And like, no one else needs to have an opinion about that during the process.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what are you most excited about as you look toward the future?
I mean, definitely our family and, you know, having children, little children running around. I have to say, like, I am very interested to see some of the characteristics that are passed down from the sperm donor. You know, like there are some, you know, concrete things that are very different than Maddie and I. And so I am very like curious to kind of see like where those come up.
Yeah, I just think we've always dreamed about having a family. And I think the moment we actually are able to have a child of our own is just going to be incredible. Like I'm just so excited for all of it. Yeah. And I'm excited that I don't want to say the hard part certainly isn't over, and we don't know what our journey will bring as we try to get pregnant, but I'm really happy that we have this part behind us and we don't have to worry about the sperm aspect. And now we can just navigate, you know, what our path will look like.
Now, if you could go back and change anything, is there any part of your family building journey that you would change if you could?
I would say I wish we just knew about Donor Concierge sooner. I think there are a few months when we were really frustrated as we were looking at sperm banks and thinking about our options and didn't really know what the path forward would look like. I do think it was important that we went through that, because then we were so grateful to find Donor Concierge and then how we ended up going through the process. But yeah, if anything would be smoother, I would just say knowing that there's an option where we could have gotten, our exclusive donor that we had way more insight into earlier on, that would have just made everything much easier.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate your time, and I've really enjoyed our conversation. So
Yeah, absolutely.
how everything goes. So
Absolutely.
We'll let you know.
Yeah, no, we definitely will let you know. We'll keep you all updated. We also, for us, it was incredibly important that our sperm donor know when we're pregnant and when the baby, is delivered, just because it's such a significant thing that he did. And in no way does he think that he, is a parent in this situation, but just, I think it's like a good, it's a good way to just say thank you, right? Like, you did this. It takes time. It takes time. It takes energy, right? Like, and yeah, he's being compensated, but like, still, like, you take time from your life to do this for honestly complete strangers. We're just so thankful for him.
no, I think that's really thoughtful of you, because I think that that's another thing that historically, like, they wouldn't let egg donors know that there was a positive pregnancy and or didn't want them to meet and all of that sort of thing. But I've found that, there's closure there. There's that feeling of, wow, I'm so glad it worked for them. So it's something that I think it's important to think of both sides of that equation, because, these donors aren't widgets either. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, and thanks for everything. It was an amazing
it honestly was
experience.
an amazing experience. And thank you for all of your help when there was that little hiccup in the middle. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure.